He is 100% worth it.
He takes it to another level. Oh my God, I just fell in love with it.
Thanks so much, Jay.
Blew my mind. And it worked. I wanted to buy my thing.
Jay is, I would say, the Yoda of sales calls, man.
Just talking to Jay, he was so good at just taking what it is, seeing the opportunity and the value and the real reason we were making it.
Talk to Jay, because he got it. He can definitely help you out.
Talk to Jay. You're going to get a lot. You're going to gain a lot.
I would absolutely recommend him for any position that you have.
Jay's definitely the guy.
Give him the chance, give him the opportunity. You won't regret it.
He's good at what he does, so I highly recommend him, and I would book him before he is fully booked out.
Welcome to the Sales Ninja Show, where we cut through the noise and ditch outdated sales tactics and show you how to close deals with confidence and a strategy that actually works. My name is Jay, and I am the founder of Sales Ninja. And if you're tired of chasing leads, handling endless objections, and feeling like you have to convince people to buy, you're definitely in the right place. Here, we do sales differently. We believe in positioning over pressure, where the right people lean in without the need for pushy tactics. And that's the heart of the reverse glass selling method. And this is a kingdom-driven framework built on trust, service, and true connection. Because when you lead with value, sales becomes effortless. And when you sell more, you can give more. Our guest today is a true expert in turning podcasts into business growth engines. So I'm really excited to have her here. She's a digital marketing strategist and the co-founder of One Stone Creative, a podcast production agency that specializes in helping businesses build powerful podcast networks and create content that truly resonates. With years of experience in podcast strategy, monetization, and production, she's helped hundreds of business owners develop tailored podcast strategies that seamlessly integrate into their sales cycle, turning their shows into powerful tools for growth and influence. And she's also the creator for the Business Podcast Blueprints, a proven framework that helps business leverage podcasts to achieve their content marketing goals. As the author of Podcasting for Business, she's on a mission to show businesses how podcasts can make a significant impact on their bottom line. And now, here's the woman herself, ready to share her wealth of knowledge, Megan Dougherty. Hey, Megan, how you doing today?
Hello, Jay. I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. And before I butcher your name, I actually forgot to ask you off stage what your last name and how to pronounce it was.
It's Dougherty, so Megan Dougherty.
Dougherty. Okay, there you go. Thanks. I hate on sales calls when people butcher my name, and even though their pitch is really great and I need their stuff, something about them, like people actually have called me Jay Lee, like like my first and my last name, and they just call me Jay Lee. So I said, "Hey, Megan Dougherty." Say it one more time, the last name.
It's Megan Dougherty.
Okay.
But so, I live in Quebec, as we were talking about, and I've gotten used to answering to Megan Dougherty.
Oh my God.
It's no skin off my nose. I don't mind.
But then when I call their first and last name, they're like, "Why are you calling my first and last name?" I don't know. And then they're like, "Okay, it's Jay Lee. Let's continue." I'm like, "Okay."
Yes, if we must.
Yes. So nice to meet a fellow Canadian. I don't have many Canadians on my podcast. They're mostly in the US and all over the world. So that's always a treat. And it's a scorcher here. I know it is there. You got your fan on. Tell us about the tell us about the last 3 days of the weather in Quebec, and then we'll deep dive into podcasting.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's and you'll know this in Toronto. It's the kind of heat that just makes it hard to think. So, you don't go outside. I over the weekend, knowing this was coming, prepared meals for a couple of days so we wouldn't have to cook or use the oven, because it's that hot. And well, I mean, we're just not acclimated to that level of like Texan heat. So I'm glad it's looking to be breaking in the next couple of days.
I was talking to my American friends and team members, and when it gets hot there, it's like 90, 95, maybe 100. But when I did the conversion, because we're in degrees Celsius and we had like 46 the other day, I looked at the conversion. It was like 115 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's like, too hot.
It's just too hot. I don't remember it being that hot ever. No. And that's a perfect segue about hot and heat and podcast and monetization. But before we deep dive into that, we want to talk about and discover your personal journey and transformation from law to business. You've had a varied journey from studying law to diving into digital marketing and podcast strategy. How did you shift from, because I don't know, for me in a performance-driven Asian culture, going from law, it'd be like, why is there life outside of that? Because you've made it.
Oh, I think we might have had a little miscommunication. I don't have a background in law. I've worked with a lot of lawyers and legal podcasts.
Okay.
It's one of our specialties. My background is in digital marketing, and before that, pastry.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay.
I
gotta
apologize if we got
right.
it crossed wire somewhere. I'm wondering if maybe I sent you like one of my clients' bios instead of mine. Oh
Okay.
goodness, that
Or
would have been
maybe that's
embarrassing.
on my team member. I'll have to check the research, but that is a big miss there too. So you were into baking and pastries as well?
Yeah, so I started when I was young. I always loved like making cookies and doing all this stuff. And so when I started working in food service cafes, and I, as many teenage girls do, I was working front of house, doing the serving, doing the drinks, but I kept getting back to the kitchen, like, hey baker, do you need some help? Hey cook, do you need some help? And so I transitioned to back of house in the restaurant world, and really got into. I ended up being a pie maker for a couple of years, which was so much
you were
fun.
serious about this.
Yeah, and I never did any like professional training in it. Just kind of like train on site in different restaurants or cafes or bakeries. But then after a few years of that, I was like, oh, this whole like getting up early and working with your body thing. Maybe I should look into a desk job. And so I went to Craigslist, as you do, in 2010 to find a new job, and I got hired as a marketer's assistant for a marketing education startup, and that's how my career in digital marketing began. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's how we did it in 2010.
Yeah. Because there's things where people buy things off of, I don't know how prominent Craigslist is now, but like Kijiji and now Facebook Marketplace, things are taken over in different ways. But you hear stories in the news here, at least in Toronto, where people, buy fridges or trucks, and then next thing you know, they're like chopped up into suitcases, right? Like it's like you got to be careful, right? And I'm not saying that's going to be all the cases, but without pun intended, but like it's just. You got to really be careful sometimes. I look at the seller details. I look at their ratings. I look at their profile. I mean, do they look like an axe murderer? So back in that 2010 year, it was a different time though. There was a lot more trust. That was a mainstream.
Exactly. It was just how it was done. Like that's where everyone posted like their job ads, and personals. So it was just a whole different era of the internet. I wouldn't recommend it today.
Yeah. So co-founding One Stone Creative. So that. What led you to co-found that in, I think, was it 2017-ish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had left the marketing company that I'd been working at, and a former colleague from that same company, she actually reached out to me out of the blue one day, and her background was in audio. She was on the radio in Dallas, Texas, all sorts of multimedia work. And she calls up and she says, hey, Megan, would you like to start a business together? And I said, with you, I'd love to start a business. Let's do it. And so we put together my expertise in the digital marketing and the online business development and her audio work. And we started, okay, let's do podcasts for business. And we've been doing it ever since.
Wow. So you have a partner?
Yes. Audra Casino.
Oh, nice. So how do you combine your roles and how do you divvy up, how you split the roles and delegations?
Yeah, that can be a tricky one in small businesses, right? When there's two leaders. So we really early on, after fighting like cats over a few things, decided we needed to kind of have different areas of responsibility, and so we divided it as creative director role and CEO role. And we don't actually use those titles because we're a really small company. It doesn't make sense. But like, is this a CEO task? If it is, then I get kind of the final decision making on that. If it's a creative task, how things look, how things feel. And just anything a creative director would handle, that's Audra's kind of zone of veto power and decision making. And that has been really helpful for us to be able to delineate the tasks based on sort of more standard business roles, even though we don't use them specifically.
Sure. Now, did you write a book?
I did write a book.
Podcasting for Business, how to create
here.
a show that makes a bottom line difference for your company. That looks great.
Thank you.
So how did the process of writing this book come and why did you write it?
I guess having a book is after, if you're in digital marketing in any capacity, after 4 or 5 years, it starts to be like, well, so shouldn't I have a book like all of the other companies do? Like I need to have my book. And this was another kind of almost random collaboration, but I was just on a networking call with someone I'd been introduced to, and she happened to be a book coach. And when you meet someone and you start talking, you just get on like a house on fire. And we were getting along so well. And the idea came up to me. It's like, okay, Amy Collette was my book coach. She was not currently podcasting, but had been thinking about getting back into it. So I was like, all right, you take me through your book coaching process and help me write the manuscript of my book. We will document the process in audio and video and release it as a podcast season demonstrating your coaching strategy. So we did a straight exchange of services in that way. And at the end of it, I had a wonderful book and she's got an awesome podcast season. And it is one of the best collaborations I've ever done in my life.
I love bartering, especially when it makes sense and it's beneficial.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to write that book, and what was the process of publishing it, and how did that all go?
Let's see, I wrote it in about 4 months. I think was the entire kind of writing process. And to be fair, a lot of that was content I was able to repurpose from other areas and ideas that have been floating around for a long time. So it wasn't like coming up with everything fresh. So I think I started in March of last year and launched it in September. And self-publishing, just got it.
And how does publishing work? You go through a publisher, or?
No, I self-published it. I looked at kind of the options for bringing in assistance for publishing, and I was just like, I figure like I could figure out most of this stuff in an afternoon with Google.
Really?
And so I figured out how to do the formatting, and it was a bit of a slog. I'd hire someone else to do it next time, but I'm glad to have learned the process.
Amazing. So that's a segue for podcast strategy and production. So for leveraging podcasts for content marketing, you created the business podcast blueprints to help businesses leverage podcasts effectively. What are some of the top, whether it's 3 things that businesses should know about podcasting in the context of content marketing?
Oh gosh. Well, that's a pretty big question. So, when you podcast, you get content. That's kind of the natural side effect of the activity. And so the most important things to know about the content that you're creating with your podcast is, what do you need it to do for your business? So there's different kinds of podcasting, right? There's podcasting because it's a passion project, because you love it. You love the message. You love the art form. You love the craft. We call these, hobby or passion podcasters. Then there's podcasting as a business in and of itself, where you start a podcast and you're hoping to monetize the podcast itself and grow a business around it. The kind of podcasting that I focus on is, you've got an existing business and you develop a podcast to grow that business or support that business in some way. And so you design the content of the podcast to fit whatever business goals are the most important or are going to move the needle the most for you. And so what a business owner needs to know first and foremost is, what does the business need in the next 6, 12, 18 months? And then they need to make the determination, can a podcast help me do this? If the answer is yes, amazing. Podcast, create content that way. If it's not, podcasting might not be the right fit for right now. If you need other things more, or if you have so little time that you can't devote to creating good quality content, maybe it's not the right time to podcast.
Okay, that's amazing. And I love, because I'm an existing business and a podcast is a support business. And then I think you asked really good questions as to, what do you want it to achieve? What's missing in your business? Is the podcast going to help support it? And design the podcast to support the business goals. So for example, if it's like monetization and exposure, brand, social, authoritative expertise, and then even leads or joint ventures, do you teach how to do all those things?
Yeah, in Podcasting for Business, the book, I break down how to optimize a podcast for 15 different business outcomes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really fun. So it's everything from one of my favorite ways to kind of get value out of a podcast is to shorten a sales cycle. So instead of, having a sales process that lasts 6, 8 weeks, you can bring that down to 3, 4 weeks. And that can make such a difference for cash flow. Oh, yeah. And that's one of the highest ROIs ways to use a podcast, in my opinion. And then you can use it to build your referral relationships, is another way to optimize a podcast. It could be to create the content to fill your social media calendar. You can use it to build company culture if you've got a bigger team. You can use it for all sorts of networking, Riz. And of course, as you mentioned, there is the kind of the fame and the authority, the becoming a really big podcaster. I usually don't recommend that for most business owners. The something that comes up a lot, and maybe you've heard this before. You've talked to people who are just like, if I'm going to be investing in a podcast, I want it to at least pay for itself, and they're hoping that's going to happen in terms of sponsorships or direct sales. Those are the hardest ways to make money from a podcast. There are way easier ways to make it valuable and have a return on your investment, but they're not they don't fit the model of traditional podcasting like you see the bigger shows doing. It's a different style of podcasting, and it's a different way of looking at how this tool works in your business. So that's a lot of my conversations start off with, okay, it would be cool to be a 1%, top 1% podcaster, but what's that actually going to meaningfully mean for your business? And unless you have a good system built around that, it'll mean exactly nothing.
You said earlier, like in your book, you have 15 ways to monetize. That's incredible.
Well, 15 ways to optimize for different business outcomes.
Okay,
So I don't love the word monetize in relationship to podcasting, because as a business owner, my business is the monetization.
Yes.
The podcast job is to help my business. The podcast in and of itself typically should not be monetized, in my opinion, for a business owner. So that's, I do take a little exception to monetization of business podcasts, because it's not the podcast that should be monetized. The podcast helps you monetize your business.
So it complements the business.
Yeah. It complements, supports, extends, enhances, all sorts of words around that.
Gotcha.
But it's a tool, it's a tool that your business is using.
So let's talk about that. Podcast monetization strategies. You talk about 15 different ways to optimize for business outcomes, to help the business, to complement, support, amplify. What is some of your approaches to help monetizing for those who are listening to the show, who are listening to the podcast? How can people support their business and monetize?
Yeah. So if we're looking specifically at podcasts that are optimized to work as part of a sales process, there's three kind of high level ways to do it. And one is direct, the guest to potential client pipeline. So sort of an account-based marketing style of podcasting, where as the podcast host and business owner, you would be interviewing people who could potentially become clients for your business. They're a good fit, and you use the podcast as one of the steps in your sales process. This is what I would consider the most advanced method, because it's super easy to come off as a giant skis ball when you're doing this. And so it's got to be done with kind of grace and tact and nice follow-ups, and making sure that you're adding value and good fit, and that you're actually also creating content that is more interesting to listen to than a sales call. So it's the advanced technique. Another one that I really like is the longer game kind of podcast guest monetization strategy, and that's building referral relationships. So you can have a more conversation between equals, where you're both trying to get the measure of each other and get the fit and explore topics of mutual interest. And those relationships can over time be leveraged into back and forth referral partnerships that really in the long game can stack up hugely over time. And it's so much easier to close a sale from a warm referral than it is from a cold one, as you well know. And then finally, this is probably my favorite one, is developing podcasts that work as sales enablement tools. And so that's where you're going to nurture potential leads, shorten that sales cycle, do pre-education, pre-qualification of your clients, all through a podcast and all at scale. So that when someone does get on the phone with you, they've listened to a couple of episodes, maybe a lot of episodes, and they get on the phone with you and it's like, I love what you've done for that other guy. I love what you did for that business. Could you do it for me? That's a very nice way to start a sales conversation. So those are kind of the top three ways I think about direct monetization from podcasts.
Interesting. I have some thoughts from other people that I talk to, because I always try to listen as a first-time learner. I think the lady had a successful business. She was on my podcast, and she was in the top, I think, 10%. So she had a lot of downloads, a lot of subscribers. And then she said, like you said, she used, the account-based marketing, which is the most advanced method. And she said, I can't remember what percentage, because we're not, like you said, we don't want to come off of salesy and all this stuff. But she said that she was providing an AI solution that everyone that she was interviewing as ideal potential qualified person on the podcast would want or need at some point.
Yeah.
So she was able to bring on a number of clients, like in the call, she would educate them, she would show them and share with them, and then they would share their problems. And then in the podcast, they would just kind of tackle those problems. And then many of those people would become clients. She also said that she used a paid ad strategy to engage with her podcast so that people, I think, could rate it. And she quickly became with not subs, they're called, I guess, downloads, and rated as a top, I think, 10 percentile. Have you heard of these kinds of strategies? Do you recommend any of them?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, a whole bunch of stuff in there. And I think there's a couple of reasons that worked particularly well. And I'm also assuming, very intelligent business owner making excellent strategic decisions. So taking that for granted, it's in a kind of really high interest industry. If it's a software as a service type of model, that's a really good use case for this type of podcasting, because it's a much easier ask, then sign up for my $10,000 coaching mandate. And it's much easier to be like, hey, we can talk about how these solutions would work in a really natural way, creating cool case studies, talking about real business problems that other people are going to find interesting. Yes, I think that's a really natural way to turn that into a sale. So I think any kind of tech company, SaaS company, anything with kind of a lower ticket, really high interest, high potential value offer can be really, really great for exactly that. In terms of the paid traffic, it's a great way to get listens. The top 10, top 5, top 1% podcasting, that's always really, really interesting because depending on where you're getting that number, that can mean anything from, a few hundred downloads per episode to tens of thousands of downloads per episode. So there's a huge range, and there's not kind of one single source of truth for podcast rankings. In that sense, there's different, because some companies look at every podcast that has ever existed, including those that are no longer active. Others have different criteria for how they're making that judgment. So those numbers can mean a lot of different things. And I think, I discourage people from worrying too much about where they are ranked in the scheme of all podcasts, because for most businesses who have products and services that they sell, it's not a super meaningful metric in terms of business outcomes. Now, downloads can matter when they're tied to something else. Are downloads tied to your list growth, to the growth of your community? Is it to your sales of your book? If you have a ratio of, I get this many downloads and I have a pretty good reason to believe that's going to get me this many conversions, cool, downloads matter. And that's a great time to think about investing in paid traffic strategies when you have a sense of what a download means to your business. But if you don't have that sense, or if you don't have that clear relationship between downloads and something else, I would make sure that pursuing downloads has a business use. When sometimes, it's the potential guests and the relationships that you're building there that are going to be more valuable, or the way people are consuming content on an individual one person to podcast basis rather than the one to many style of the download sourcing.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you have, who is your ideal client, and how do you help them? How do you work with them?
So I love working with people, experts running small businesses. I love lawyers and finance people and marketing, PR, HR. Kind of a personal passion of mine is working with people in industries where there's a lot of bias against them. Who's happy to call their lawyer, right? A lawyer who has a podcast is going to have people who are happy to call him because they know him and they know his voice. And I love that. It makes me really happy to make someone's work life a little bit better in that regard. So I'd say people, experts with small businesses in industries that have a lot of bias against them. And the way we work with them is we figure out, what does the business need from a podcast? And then we design a show specifically to do those things. And we can do ongoing shows, video shows. My personal favorite type of podcasting, especially for a new podcaster, we call a sprint. And that's a quick 3-month process to do a 12-episode podcast season. That's a really great starting point for someone who's not sure about this whole podcasting thing, or who has just a work cycle that doesn't allow consistent podcasting. So it's so much fun.
Awesome. That's interesting with the sprint podcast, that given the 12-episode podcast, and then if they choose to work with you, they can continue to do that. Like, do you? And I think you do the actual podcast for them, or help them do it, or?
Yeah, we help them do it. And it's just to say, the sprint, it's kind of a gateway drug to ongoing podcasting. Most people who do a sprint, they either want to do another one or do another kind of podcasting. So it's a great way to test the waters with a low commitment, which is really fun. And for, I'm sorry, could you repeat the second part of your question? I got excited about the sprint again.
Oh, like I was wondering how you actually help them afterwards.
Oh, yes. Yes, thank you. So we in a sprint, we'll actually script out the episodes. So we'll figure out about their business and actually do the scripting for them. And then they record live with Audra, my business partner, or another one of our producers. For ongoing podcasts that are different types, so interviews, our clients will record their episodes alone. They meet with me to talk about strategy. We record the stats and the metrics, everything that's working. And we do all of the post-production and create all of the assets that they need to share. So the reels, the social content, the newsletters, we do all of that. Yeah.
Wow. So it's like a done with you, done for you service?
Exactly.
That's impressive. Let's talk about software stack. I know we were talking offline, but
Yes.
So a lot of people, when I talk to them, they feel like that there's such a big hurdle of like, I don't know where to start. I don't have the proper equipment. I don't have the budget to buy this expensive microphone and software. They don't need to have all those things, but what would you recommend for people maybe who are starting out and people who are existing business owners that have some money that want to take their podcast to another level in terms of software and hardware stack?
Absolutely. So let's start with mics, because that's the thing with mics is you can spend as much money as you want to on a microphone. I have really, I'm a big fan of the Shure MV7. So it's a, and I hope I got the model name right. Please check me if I'm wrong, but it's a desktop mic. It plugs into USB, and it's really good quality for the price. I think it runs about $150 US. That's a perfectly good starter mic for most people, and anything that kind of in that $100 to $200 range is going to be great when you're getting going. You may want a fancier, higher end one if you're doing studio recordings, or if you've been podcasting for a while, you really want to level up, or you're a gearhead. That's a legitimate reason too.
Is the N1 Rhodes?
Rode can be great. Yeah. If you talk to if you've got a producer, if you've got like an audio friend, they can advise you on which mic will be best for your voice. Audra shocks me sometimes with what she knows, but like, oh, Rode is great for male voices in this register, and Shure is great.
Right. Oh, interesting.
That's a lot. Most beginning podcasters don't need to go that deeply. The most important thing is how you use your mic. Even kind of a lower end mic can sound really good if you're using it correctly. And the best way to figure that out is go to YouTube, type in your mic name and model, and you're going to find a delightful nerd who's going to go through all of the settings and show you how to place it and how to get the best sound out of it. And you also want to make sure that your recording environment is as good as possible. And that usually means fluff. The last thing you want for recording is to be in a kind of glass or empty walled box where there's going to be lots of echo, because there's very little that can happen with echo in post-production. It's just there. So you can see behind me, I've got those black diamonds. They're actually a little too far away to be really useful, but they're a great demonstration, so I keep them there. That's a sound buffer panel. And it prevents the sound waves from bouncing back to the mic. And as time goes on, as the technology advances, mics are getting better and better at doing all of that kind of in-house. But I'd say, just make sure that you're using your mic correctly. I've got mine, it's a little off screen, but it's pretty close to my face. And I'm talking right past it.
A stand?
I've got, boom arm is wonderful. I love being able to push it out of the way when I'm not using it.
And do you go through like a studio, what we call USB interface, or you guys go straight into the computer?
I go straight into the computer. And I think for if you want to be a professional podcaster, you want the extra bells and whistles. For most company podcasters, something that plugs into your computer is going to be fine. And I find for a lot of people, if it's going to be hard, it's not going to happen. And it's much better to have slightly lower quality, and it's slight, than to not have your podcast.
100% agree with that. Yeah.
And when it comes to actual recording, I do very much recommend using a dual-ended recording platform if you've got guests. And so that means a platform like Riverside, like Squadcast, I believe like StreamYard, which we're on right now, like Iris.fm. And what it's going to do is it's going to capture your audio on your computer and your guest audio on their computer, and it combines them afterwards. That way, everyone's going to sound better. Using Zoom, using Google Meet, that's voice over IP, and it sucks. Again, usually better than no podcast, but not ideal, because what you lose in your voice, you can't put back. So if it's not capturing all the whole sound waves that your body is creating, there's not much you can do in post to give that richness back. So get a platform that records each individual on their own computer and combines it afterwards. Those are the two biggest things. Use your mic right and record everyone's voice alone.
Some great tips. How about with video? If you're streaming and you're doing a live with video, whether it's camera and also even the software tech, because I was just actually playing with the video settings today. I'm at 720p, and then I was going to put it to the higher resolution at 1080p, and then it says warning. Some social media platforms only view at this 720, so it doesn't make sense. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, is where is this video going to go? And how are people going to use it? If it's on social media and if people are mostly going to be looking on their phones, don't bother with the super high end that's going to expose every flaw and wrinkle in your face. It'll take up so much bandwidth to process those files and to manage. So I go with and Audra and I butt heads a little bit on this, because people who are purists about quality, 1080 all the way. But if you say you have a YouTube channel, it's probably worth getting the higher quality video, because that's going to be possibly viewable on a full computer screen, even if a full television screen. So you want to have that extra visibility, but really think about kind of how do I expect people to use this? Are they going to be looking at it on their phone? Cool, I can do the smaller, kind of faster, easier quality. Is it going to be like mounted on somebody's big 38-inch wall TV? I better have, the quality that's going to look good there too. So it's all about audience, as it always is.
And with regarding because you do a lot of podcasting, webcam or built-in or DSLRs, what do you recommend?
A good quality kind of USB plug-in webcam is going to be good enough for most purposes. Right now, I've got my laptop mic, which is a little bit embarrassing, but I'm in between webcams right now. So I've got just computer, I've got laptop mic, and it's okay. It's not ideal, but it's good enough for most purposes. But I think, Logitech makes some good ones. Razer makes some good ones, but just a nice webcam. And if you can get lighting to make sure that your whole face is lit up reasonably evenly, that can be really good if you're doing video. A ring light can be really nice. Sometimes if you wear glasses like I do and like you do, beware the ring light circle demon eyes of doom, because those can be really distracting and hard to remove. It's the reflection of the ring light right in the glasses. I've had to re-record many videos because of that issue.
I have the same problem. I got a ring light that's very warm. That's not the problem, but it's my screen that's bright. So when I'm looking at the monitor, it shows the reflection of the screen. How are you not getting a reflection on yours?
Because I've got less direct lighting. I think the brighter light is causing it not to reflect. And I also, this is a tiny little tip, I have my glasses tilted slightly up. So so take my glasses like this.
Yeah.
So slightly pointed downwards.
Down?
Yeah. It's going to reduce the reflection a little bit. There you go.
Okay.
Now you've got less reflection. You still got some reflection. That's because the rest of your room is very dark. If you brightened up the rest of your recording space, I think you'd see less reflection.
Interesting. Okay. I got to figure something out. I know some people use like these, not strobe lights, but they're standing lights, and it kind of helps.
Yeah, the box light. Those are wonderful. That's really nice soft light, and they don't reflect.
Okay.
At least don't reflect as badly.
Yeah, so room for improvement. So that was very helpful. I'm currently using. I'm just using a Logitech. I think it's a 1080p. It's not even a very high quality. It's decent, but it's got enough quality where it can blur the background a bit. And so
yeah,
it's
and I mean, you look great.
Thank you.
I've got my last. I had a reasonably high end Razer light that had a ring light attached, and I loved it, and it worked beautifully. But it just stopped working, and the troubleshooting and the customer service was so difficult. I just haven't replaced it out of spite yet.
Isn't Razer
I'm
like
so mad that
a gaming or a mouse gaming company?
Exactly. Yeah. No. Gaming equipment is great for podcasters.
Oh, game. Okay, really?
Yeah.
Good to know. Yeah, and sorry, back to what you were saying with the Shure MV7. That seems to be like the standard, industry standard.
Yeah.
So people are very happy with that. But like you said, Audra, is that your partner?
Yes.
Like
she's going to be watching this and correcting me on all the little nuances that I got wrong. I hope you're so. I'll send you a follow up if I've made glaring errors.
Well, I didn't even think about like the different voice quality and the depth, because I'm a more of a baritone, like a bass. So different mics and the way that they sound may not be appropriate, even though they're quote unquote good. So I'm sure Audra would have a good say in that.
This is an interesting point too, is beware getting a mic that's too good.
Really?
Because some mics, and this is an issue that can happen with Yeti sometimes, which is a wonderful company, but they build mics that are really for studios, that are in completely sound treated rooms. So they pick up every little bit of room noise because they're so sensitive and high quality. And that can actually, for say a casual podcaster, that can cause editing difficulty on the back end, because you've got all of this, it's just designed for a studio environment, and it's beautiful quality. But when you put it in a less than ideal, fully optimized recording setup, like most of our offices are, it doesn't sound the way you expect it will. And the more fancy your mic is, the more settings you have to deal with, the more, so like get the simplest one that you can manage to get is typically my advice.
I'm going to relate it to like even cars, like, I always wanted the higher end luxury. And then my mechanic said, the more you get all these different bells and whistles, the more problems you're going to have. I'm like, but I want that comfort. And then sure enough, I bought that luxury thing. And then I had like, not mechanical issues, but computer issues, sensor issues. And because of that, it would shut the car down, because it was like overload, or the errors were, compounding, and then it was shut down as like a domino effect. And he's like,
yeah,
I'm not going to say I told you so, but I told you so. So
I have
simplicity
I had
is
a
helpful.
yeah, totally similar experience with mics. Actually, I had a much higher end mic, and the settings were so fiddly. That I'm not a gearhead, and so every time I changed something on my computer, or just the volume, like it would alter how my mic was sounding, and I'd come in too hot, and it would be crackly, and it was driving me mad. So I downgraded the model number of the mic, and this one I haven't had a single problem with.
Amazing.
I plug it in and it works.
Amazing. So talk about so for you when you're doing your podcast, are you doing the advanced methodology of account-based marketing? And if so, whatever strategy you're using, how do you reach out to people? How do you get people on your podcast?
Yeah, so my current podcast is called the Business Podcast Spotlight, and it's not the account-based marketing. So I'm not using it. My terminology from the book is a sales qualified lead. So I'm not using it as a sales qualified lead generating show. I'm using it as a relationship building and particularly referral relationship building show. So it's the way I designed the podcast was to get other business owners who have podcasts to come on and talk about how they're using their podcast and, what's working well, what can we improve, what could change, how are you, what's the cool strategy that you've come to, really exploring that. And then I end it with kind of a takeaway. Here's how you can apply this at home section. And that serves a couple of functions. It's a great conversation with guests, wonderful beginning for a relationship that can go in a lot of different ways, depending on what, feels good for everybody. And the sections that I've got at the end, that's just straight thought leadership. It's our IAP, talking about how knowledgeable we are, good at teaching, good at figuring out strategies, good at helping people apply them. All of that works as case study content for my business. So it works throughout the sales process. It works, most of my social media content comes from there. It's a newer show for me and I'm having so much fun with it.
Speaking of which, when you said content, you can slice and dice. What in terms of software stack, what do you use to help, curate your content and edit your videos and put captions on them?
I hire excellent audio engineers who do it for me.
Okay.
So yeah, I've got a team of different people who do different things within the business, and they create our content. So some of the tools currently everyone's editing on the Adobe Suite, and that's kind of as our process. If we need reels for my show or a client show, they take they extract them during the audio and video editing process, and then another team member. Right now we're using Headliner. Because we've got it kind of all set up with our different templates for the different shows that we're doing to add the captions to the clips, sometimes to clip things depending on the process. And those are pretty much the big ones. We also have a writer who does a human writer who does the writing of the show notes and the captions. She also does the quality assurance listen. So that's we don't use a lot of AI tools at One Stone Creative.
Amazing. And in terms of your podcast content strategy, as you're hiring these amazing engineers. What's your content strategy and which platforms? Because obviously for your ICP, your ideal client, you have a certain platform that you want to go on. So what is your thought process of how you kind of publish and get all your content out?
It has changed a lot over the years. And I made the decision at the beginning of this year, which has been one of the best ones I've made in a long time. I'm not going to do much social media anymore.
Really?
I just don't want to do it. I don't like it.
Okay.
It gives me no joy. So I have a LinkedIn newsletter that I publish once a week with a podcast episode or with other interesting content. And I've got an email that goes to our email community, which is what we devote our time to building. And those are the places that I publish our work.
Interesting.
And I don't do anything else anymore. And it's amazing.
Really? So LinkedIn newsletter once a week and email once a week?
Yeah, email once a week and extra if I've got lists of segmentation. I send different people different things at different times. But so it's email and LinkedIn. That's all I do.
So does the email mirror the newsletter or does it take bits and pieces of it? Okay, nice. I love that. But how do you get your emails? Because if you don't have an audience, then they're not seeing it.
Oh yeah. So we've got on our website various resources. And I do lots of networking. I meet lots of people, and sometimes it makes sense to do, say, an opt-in exchange where they'll email their list, I'll email mine, and we'll kind of exchange community where that's appropriate. When people come on the podcast, they're offered the chance if they would like to be added to our newsletter. Amazing. Sometimes we ask members of our newsletter to ask other people. Sometimes we do paid traffic. That's something I'm looking forward to experimenting more in kind of the next couple quarters of the year to build that email community. When we do like live events, we promote those and we get people onto the list that way. And I'm thinking, I haven't completely decided yet, but I think I might make my book free and let people use it as an opt-in rather than buy it for $10. I haven't fully decided yet, but I'm noodling it.
Hard copy or digital ebook?
Digital ebook.
Okay. I like that. I like that option because I think it could
Yeah,
be
I
a
haven't.
good.
Yeah,
Because if you, I mean, I'm just talking in real time now, but as
Yeah.
a sales coach, you do an opt-in, whether it's the full book or portions of it, they love it, and then you can do a follow-up strategy, and then do a podcast audit call where
Ooh, I love
where people
that.
either don't have it or they want to start or they
Yeah.
have one but they're not doing it well, which is probably all the cases. And it gives you an opportunity to give them a audit with like maybe here's the 3 top strategies that are helping my clients and myself. And then you can either take it and run with it, or you can, work with us if you want to collapse time and get quantum leaps.
Yeah. Thank you for that little tidbit
Yeah.
of knowledge. I think that's great. That's tilting me, I think, towards doing it. And I also don't really want to support Amazon anymore. So I want to get my book off Amazon. So making it free will help.
Smart idea. And do you have a community where, other than the newsletter or the email list, is there like a place where people can go, like in a community setting, or?
No, there is not. It's I think I run a pretty small business, and I
Yeah.
like it that way.
Yeah.
I've got a really tight team. We've all been working together for years now. Our clients we're pretty close to.
Amazing.
And so I have no real desire. I don't want to get famous. I don't want to be the biggest podcast production agency in the world. I want to help business owners achieve goals and stay as much
100%.
behind the scenes as I can.
I love it. So I have a whole bunch of links. I'm gonna have to have you explain them. I don't even know if they're valid, but I have a website for podcastingforbusiness.com. Is that one of your links?
That is, yes. So podcastingforbusiness.com is, one, it's the best domain I've ever gotten.
I
That,
agree.
as was pointed out to me this morning, I had forgot to put auto renew on and had
Yeah, yeah.
expired. Working that out as soon as we jump off that call,
Yes.
but the domain has been renewed now. I just need to
Awesome.
wait for it to propagate and get the site back up.
Yeah.
I'm a professional business owner, everybody.
Yes.
That's where you can find the book. So podcastingforbusiness.com. We've also got a bunch of resources there that can help you decide, one, if a podcast is effective or will be effective for your business. It's called, pardon me. Forgive me there. It's called, quite plainly, will a podcast work for your business? And that's going to take you through the business podcast blueprints methodology and explain how to decide if a podcast is actually a good idea. And then if you've already got a podcast, we've got a podcast impact assessment, which is going to take you through a bunch of things. And you go yes, no, maybe on them for the impact that it's having on your business. So it's like, is it taking too much time? Is it actually generating results? Is it easy? And that'll give you kind of the hit list of things to optimize for a podcast that's currently running.
Awesome. And then you have a onestonecreative.net as well.
Yeah, and that's for our main production.
Okay, gotcha. And then I don't know if this is from you, but this is what my team member gave me. Is this a business podcasting report, trends and best practices from the top 100
Yes, that
shows?
is us. So we started doing this in 2020. And so every fall we look at the top 100 business podcasts and we evaluate them on about 70 different criteria.
Wow.
So we look at we look at their art, we look at their social media, we look at how they're sponsored, we look at the show length, their release schedule, and we compile it all into a report to establish baseline best practices and trends in the industry. So we're doing our 6th iteration this year, which I'm
Wow.
pretty excited about.
That is so cool. So if people want to get a hold of you, is LinkedIn the best place to get a hold of you, or?
LinkedIn's a great place to get a hold of me, and I am always in my email inbox. So if you want to get in touch with me, any contact form on One Stone Creative or podcastingforbusiness.com, come right to me.
Okay, awesome. So as we come to a close, we have a speed round to get to know Megan.
I love a speed round.
Yes, this is going to be to kind of get to know who you are and ask some quirky questions and fun questions. So just kind of react to whatever I say and whatever comes to your mind. Coffee
I'm
or
so
tea?
ready. Coffee.
Okay. Early riser or night owl?
Early riser.
Favorite podcast of all time?
Sawbones, a marital tour of misguided medicine.
Okay, what? What was that?
It's called Sawbones, and it's just kind of like wacky medical history and malpractice. It's a husband and wife podcasting team. They're amazing.
Medical history and malpractice?
Well, it goes into like, so let's talk about, how people used to take mercury to cure diseases. Why was that wrong? And so they just go, it's just, they call it a marital tour of misguided medicine.
Wow.
It's the hosts are a comedian and a physician.
Oh, cool.
Brilliant.
Okay. How about motivational or business? Or, I mean, obviously, you probably have a whole bunch of things in your mind being a podcast professional expert. What are some other ones that people who are listening can think about to help their business?
Like resources they should check out?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say one of my top recommendations is always going to be Jeremy Enns at the Podcast Marketing Academy. He is a man who brings the data, and
Okay.
I respect that so much. A great resource right there. Podcasting Made Simple with Alex Sanfilippo, also top tier. His company Podmatch, if you're not aware of it, it's Tinder for podcasts.
Oh, is
Great
it?
way to find hosts and guests.
Oh, is it
And
really? Tinder
yeah,
for
it's
podcasts. I love that.
I don't know if that's their official tagline, but that's kind of, you get 3 matches every day. You can match them, you can pass them.
Wow.
It's great. I've met some wonderful people through it.
Okay, awesome. And if you could have dinner with any entrepreneur or marketer, who would it be and why?
Can I say my business partner, Audra, because she lives in Texas and I never get to see her in person? And it would just
Have
be
you
so much fun.
have you ever met her?
Twice. We've seen each
Okay.
other in person, I think twice.
Okay.
But we chat she's one of my nearest and dearest, but yeah, she's the other entrepreneur I think I'd want to have dinner with the most because we so rarely get to spend time close to
And
each
how
other.
long have you guys been together in partnership, and why would you want to have dinner with her in person?
Let's see. So we've been working together on One Stone Creative since 2017, but we've known each other since about 2012, 2013, when we
Wow.
both started working together at that other company.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see her in person because it's just a beautiful thing to spend time in person with your friends and the people you love. So I think, yeah, that's who I'd want to spend my one wish dinner hour with.
Hobby or secret passion that is nothing related to what you're doing, that whether you're good at or want to kind of like, if I could have another life, another passion, or another skill, another talent, what would that be?
Oh my goodness. Well, let's see. One of my passions is I do pottery. So I made my mug.
Ooh, you're a pie maker and a potter.
I love when I'm outside of work, I love doing things with my hands, and I love all of those like old crafts. So I make jam. I love to cook and bake, and I like to preserve and pickle vegetables and garden. I keep chickens. So
What? Are you for real?
yeah, my city lets you have chickens, so I've got 5.
Okay, that was a standout for me because here in Toronto it's illegal, and I know people who have them. I'm not going to name their names, but as long as their neighbors are quiet about it, they're okay with it.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I pay the city $30 a year for a chicken license, and I'm
so
allowed to
you get fresh eggs
every day.
every day.
Yeah, 5
Okay.
chickens. It's usually 3 or 4 eggs a day when they're in their prime laying years. We eat a lot of eggs.
I love eggs. Anyways, man, if I was your neighbor, I'd be like your best friend. Pickled vegetables, homemade jams, homemade
Mhm.
pies, potter, fresh eggs every single day. Podcast expert. You're my kind of gal, and
Thank
helping to
you.
optimize it, support it, monetize it, and that's a huge blessing. So what is as we close, what is the last remark or word for people who are like, I talk to so many entrepreneurs and they're like either scared or they don't think
Mhm.
a podcast is even a possibility, or maybe they don't even feel like they have a value and a voice. What would you say
Mhm.
to them?
I'd say it's worth trying. If a podcast, and I think it's worth trying if it's worth trying. So I think the question is, do I feel like I should have a podcast because it's going to make a meaningful difference in my business, or do you feel like you should have a podcast because other people have them? Or because it's kind of industry standard to have them. And sometimes that could be a good enough reason to do it, to make sure that you are, at the level of your colleagues. But I think if you're feeling nervous, start with being a guest on other people's shows so you can see how it works, hear your voice and audio, practice, that kind of presence. And then start with something short rather than committing to every Tuesday for the rest of time. I really like a season or a limited release podcast because you can do 6, 8, 10, 12 episodes. And if you can do that even if you hate it. You just grit your teeth and you get through it. But then when it's done, you've completed something and you didn't abandon it. You didn't quit. You didn't give up. You finished a project and then moved on. So I'd say that's my advice. If you do have good reason to believe that podcasting is a good fit for you, but you're not sure, test it out with the season and see how you like it, see how your audience responds, and see if you get any outcomes that you like from it. And that way, the energy around that is really good because it's complete. It'll be evergreen and you can make your decisions from there.
Amazing. Well, that was a lot of gold nuggets and cherry on the pie that you have given us. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning into the Sales Ninja Show. If you are a 7 or multi-6-figure entrepreneur and you want to be share your story of, from pie to podcast to profitability, comment podcast if you want to be on the Sales Ninja Show. Megan, you have been an absolute delight, and thank you so much for sharing all your insights. And I'm looking forward to sending people your way. And if people want to get to know about Megan and how they can start a podcast, maybe a 12-week sprint or 12-session sprint would be the best way. So you can connect with Megan here at www.linkedin.com/IN, and then your last name with your first name there.
Or you can find us at onestonecreative.net, onestonecreative.net. Any contact form will get you right to me.
And that's there right as well. So well said. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you're looking to sell more, to give more, then keep tuning into the podcast so we can help you do that. Thanks, everyone. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Massive.